Hi everyone, we are here, we are live. Thank you for joining us on Decipher You. This is Elizabeth Voss, Editor-in-Chief of Disobedient Media, and I'm so humbled and proud to be here with Suzie Dawson, leader of the Internet Party, and we are going to get started in just a few minutes, and I believe that that is my playback probably. And we actually have an awesome announcement today, and it is that we have a Decipher You Patreon set up. And I'm going to come into chat right now and share that link. And I'm hoping that Fly will also share that link periodically through our stream. And we will just get started in just a moment as I share that link. And so, yeah, oh, well, I don't have the wrench in order to share links. So Fly, I will, or Crockatoo, I'll let you do the responsibilities of that. So yeah, I just thought I'd take a moment to step back and kind of just talk about a few of the things that we've done in the last few weeks that have been so important and wonderful. And I think one of the most important is just the fact that, you know, we're continually going through and finding so many important facts and pieces of evidence that, again, I mean, I know most of our viewers that have been with us a while are aware of this, but there are so many facts that simply have never been brought up. And that has no impact or significance on their importance. It's just that they haven't been given attention before. And, you know, every single stream we have, we're finding multiple important pieces of information that should be taken more seriously. And so I believe that we're up to about file number 170 in batch 4 of the Snowden files, which as you all know, we've been going through for a number of weeks now. And I'm hoping that pretty soon we'll get through the end of batch 4. And Suzie will join me in just a few minutes. But if everyone in chat is settled and ready to go, I will start up looking at links pretty soon here. If you're listening, if you can hear me, can you grab the Patreon link, please, from Discord, and please throw it into the YouTube chat so that people can see it. And as we're getting started, I would really love for everyone to take, you know, if you can donate through the Patreon, we would really appreciate it, because this is such, you know, this is a lot of work that we're doing. It's independent journalism, and it's live independent journalism, and we just would really appreciate if you can helping us out there to keep us going as we go forward in time doing this. If not, totally fine, but it's there because, I mean, I remember Suzie has told us a number of times that people have reached out to her wanting to support what we're doing. And so if that's something that you want to do, then now we have a page set up for it, and we very much appreciate it. And we will develop that page, and we will try to provide some amazing content for Patreon as we go on. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen now, and I'm going to start going on, start reading through the document that we're on, which was one.
Hey, Elizabeth, sorry.
Hi, Suzie, are you there?
Hi, Brian. I'm here. I'm just quickly making a cup of tea. I'm so sorry because I need it to get through the next 2 hours. But I actually haven't even got to read like the description on the Patreon or anything. So I was wondering if you could quickly take us through it and maybe find out from the people in the chat what they think we should put on the Patreon, or if there's something they think we should add to the description or whatever. It'd be awesome. So I'm listening and I'm reading, but I'm just making tea. I'll be right back.
Great. Well, that is hilarious. Great timing, actually, because at least the Patreon page that I'm seeing that Fly Link doesn't look like it's working. I know that we have a Decipher You page because I created it myself. That's very odd, because I have the link working here on my end, but when I clicked on it from Fly's link, it said 404. Let me try once more. Make sure that link works. Yeah, no, it's giving me a 404. That's very odd. If anybody else has that problem, can you let me know in chat? I will try to fix that as soon as possible. I hope that other people are not having the same issue. I can see it. I can see the page just fine. I don't know if anybody else is having the same issue. Can anybody in Discord try and check the link and tell me if you're having the same 404 message that I am? One moment. I'm just going to type that. Okay, so since it's working fine for Fly, I'll assume that there's something odd with my just clicking on it, I don't know what that would be, but I will assume that everybody else can see the Decipher EU Patreon page. So what we're doing with this page right now, and I will share that screen. What we're doing right now is we've just got a very simple introduction, and we've got obviously our wonderful graphic that Somerset being created for us, and we're so honored that they did that. It's just got our title. It says Decipher EU is creating a world first journalism initiative. And we have an introduction that just states that we are a world first journalism initiative, which is spearheaded by the Internet Party of New Zealand's Suzie Dawson and me, Elizabeth Voss, editor-in-chief of and co-founder of Disobedient Media. And we ask you to join us as we collaboratively shed light on never before publicized Snowden files on Decipher EU. And so, you know, it's a very simple process to donate to this page. There's obviously, we've just started it, so there's not a whole lot of content here yet, but there will be as we continue. And we're so thankful that so many of you have reached out to expressing your desire to donate to us. It's really, really humbling to see that. So thank you so much for all of the interest you've shown in this project and in this initiative. And at this stage, that is all that is on the Patreon page. But we are definitely hoping to flesh this out rapidly and try. Oh, hi, Suzie.
Hey.
We're back.
Funny being greeted because I was like actually here the whole time, but yeah. That's a really cool start. So I'm thinking what might be really useful is to go and post like on the Patreon, even just for like archiving it, post each episode in sequential order and maybe just put like a couple of sentences about what we found in the episode.
That would be fantastic. So would you want me to start from, you know, the very first one we did?
Jump out of full screen or jump out of share screen for a sec.
Sure.
Thanks. Sorry, I want to see you when you're talking.
Not a problem.
Yeah, so I'm thinking, because right now we have a lot of awesome short clips, which are like very pointed, you know, about one topic or each topic that we cover or each file that we're studying. It would be really great just to have a synopsis of like episode by episode, what we discussed in it, what we found in it.
Yeah.
For me, it would be really useful to go back over.
Absolutely, I agree. That's really
without having to watch the entire thing.
Yeah, it's absolutely useful for me. And Fly has done a great job too at making smaller segments. But I do think that having a one-line, two-line synopsis of each entire stream is also really helpful, especially on the streams like the one on the UN-US, or you know those ones where we've had major findings, like one major finding in the stream. Excuse me, but
totally. I think Fly's been amazing during those clips because I just never would have got around to doing it. And I think he's got like 8, 9, 10 clips per episode, which is pretty incredible for people to be able to share and to see. So I deeply, deeply appreciate that. I'm just going to bring up my chat and say hi to you guys. And then in a couple minutes, we will get into some documents. Can you hear us all right? Is my onboard sound okay?
It sounds fine to me. I don't know how everyone in chat is going.
And then I guess just one more question about the Patreon would be, I think with Patreons, actually 2 questions. I think with Patreons that they make content that is like specifically for their Patreons. So what type of Patreon specific content would you guys like to see from us? That would be one question I have. The other thing is, I know like with Tim Pool's channel, he has like a little intro video to the Patreon channel. So I guess we should make like a 30-second intro clip.
Yes, that'd be fantastic.
To what Decipher EU is.
Definitely.
Awesome. Okay, let's see what's in chat.
Yeah, a couple of people have gotten a 404 on the Patreon, and I'm not sure why, if it's an issue with clicking the link from YouTube. But if you copy and paste the link itself, then it should work. The page is working on my end. So I don't know why that's an issue, but.
Wow, so many cool people here. Awesome.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's just go ahead and get on with docs then, I guess, for now, and then we can revisit the Patreon at a later day.
Definitely.
And we are on 170, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Oh, wow, the end is in sight.
We're getting there.
Okay, so we finished on the Department of Agriculture stuff last week.
Yeah, unless I'm 99% sure that's where we stopped. And I had a nice rant about agriculture and the agricultural industry.
Cool. Well, do you want to start with the first couple of documents, Elizabeth, and I'll drink my tea?
Oh, no problem. And I'll just read through them. If you have any, if you see something I'm missing, please jump in. And obviously chat, you guys know the drill. Okay. I'm going to skip to 171 really fast because technical difficulties, and I will be back to that as soon as Suzie is ready to. I'm now going to share screen.
I'm good, go for it.
Awesome. Okay, so I'm going to start with Back from Baghdad, which is a repost, and so I don't think it'll have too much interesting, but we will read through it anyway and see. It's from SIDToday, and it begins, in May, we interviewed Mr. Mark Cronin as he prepared to take over the responsibilities of NCR Iraq. See the article before and after, headed for Baghdad. Mr. Cronin returned from Baghdad in September. Here's the after part of the story. Okay. It starts with, how was his tour? Well, in a nutshell, Mr. Cronin describes it as a great experience, the best tour he's had in 28 years in the cryptologic community. His primary concern in Baghdad was the health and safety of the people under his supervision, and unfortunately, no one was injured during his 101 days on the site. I think we've actually read through at least.
Yeah, we did. We did this document already.
I remember the punctuated by sheer moments of terror. Okay, interesting. Passing on that then. Next one is letters to the editor, making SIDToday shareable. The database is the report. It's from SIDToday. It's from November 2004. And it talks about, the first paragraph is labeled secret, and it talks about having read the SIDToday article on database sharing and wanting to express that they were appalled. They write, I am well aware that for years the users of our reports have yelled to know how we know what we know, or feel they need the raw info to better understand what our reports say. But to indicate that by doing this allows our customers to analyze and manipulate the data to come to their own conclusions, that's what we're supposed to be doing. Okay, yeah, I remember the document that's referring to, and we were, Suzie and I last stream were discussing the issue that the massive significance of the customers themselves as opposed to just the NSA getting the information, how it gets the information. Suzie talked at a decent length about the importance of customers and focusing on that. And after we discussed that, we looked at an article that talked about cutting out the middleman essentially and allowing customers to directly access data, and possibly that would allow them to bypass a little bit of oversight. So this is responding to that. This letter back is responding to that document we looked at.
This is an incredibly significant document.
Yeah.
Incredibly significant for a number of reasons. You want to just pop us out of full screen while we just discuss a little cool things? So this is significant for several reasons. First of all, I had an exchange with at Electrospaces on Twitter, which is actually a really good source of information about NSA stuff. I've learned a lot from documents that I've read on their website. Electrospaces.net is their website, at Electrospaces on Twitter. Now, they took umbrage with our analysis of the database sharing document because they said flat out, no raw SIGINT is ever shared with customers.
Interesting.
That it's never shared outside of the intelligence community, that it couldn't possibly happen. And I said, well, no, I really don't think so. This is what this document seems to be suggesting, is that in fact the raw product will be given to the customers.
Absolutely.
This document that we're looking at right now affirms that that's correct, that our analysis was correct, and that was in fact what was being, I want to say proposed, but it wasn't proposed. It was announced that yes, they were going to be doing this. The other reason I find this incredibly significant is because this is the first time we've ever seen an example of open dissent from an employee.
Definitely.
It's the first negative feedback that we've ever seen in any of the SIDToday files. So the fact that an employee was incensed by this announcement, not only incensed, but they weren't privately expressing that they were incensed. They are telling it to the source, this is not okay. We are not happy with this. You're giving our jobs away. Exactly. It's the first indication that they might be taking some personal risk.
Definitely.
To share there. And also the third reason that it would be significant is that dissent has been acknowledged by the publishing of their comment.
Definitely.
Because these letters to the editor, there's an editor actually collecting them and then publishing them. So that suggests that the editor believes that this dissent is not isolated to a single employee, and that it needs to be aired and needs to be addressed. So that's my takeaway from reading the first half of the document. But have you got anything else that you want to add to that, Elizabeth?
I just, all that I wanted to say was just the background, the context of us looking at customers closely last time. You know, you expressing a really great analogy to give context and explain the importance of customers versus some of the other aspects of these documents. And then right after that, we did find what this letter is referring to, which is the indication that they were allowing customers to directly access data. So that's all that I have, but I completely agree with everything you've said. I think it's hugely significant as well, for sure.
Very, very newsworthy, definitely.
Absolutely, yeah. So it's a good start right off the bat, getting into some really important documents.
Cool. Okay, jump back into it. I think I'm just going to go send a little tweet about that. I'll dig out my tweet to electrostasis.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll just share screen and I will keep reading the rest of that particular file. 1 second. Just sharing screen. I'll forget. Okay, so back to this letters to the editor file. And we have the first and it's no question as to why that paragraph is labeled secret. The next is unclassified, and it's about the collection management branch. And they say, thank you for your recent article on information sharing. Most of the unified commands have been advocating for this for years, and it is gratifying to finally see public support for this concept from within the NSA. We understand how tough it will be to change the thinking of many and applaud your work in this area. The folks who made Roadbed externally accessible related their struggle to us, and we understand the resistance to change that must be overcome. In the end, the efforts of people like the author will make SIGINT far more efficient and effective. We applaud your work. Thank you. And I don't know what Suzie has to say about this, but basically that particular comment, I think I can see why that's unclassified, which is that it's, well, I take that back, but to sum that up, what I take away from that is they're literally just applauding the information sharing that we see so often emphasized in Transformation 2.0. That is a huge theme that we've seen throughout the Snowden files so far, has been the effort to increase the openness and the information sharing between agencies, in a tiered way between Five Eyes members and other parties like that. So the second paragraph of the second letter, I don't see as much as interesting as the first one. But it's
interesting that it's from NORAD.
Yeah, that's true.
That is from the NORAD, Northcom Collection Management Branch, I think is interesting.
Cool. Yeah, that makes sense.
This is the managers. Sorry, I turned my cam back on.
I'll turn off share.
This is management openly addressing dissent within their organization.
Interesting. That's another way of looking at it for sure.
It's interesting though that it comes from a branch, from a collections branch. It doesn't come from MG Quirk, the head of Signals Intelligence Directorate, or presumably from the direct manager of this employee. But it's very, very interesting. Actually, let me see. I've got the document open somewhere. I just want to double check that second paragraph.
Or I can screen share again for a second.
Oh, it's cool. I've got it. I'm looking at it right now.
Cool.
Okay, so it's actually not a direct response. So what they are doing is showing both sides of the coin. So first they're showing the unhappy employee, and then they're showing a branch saying, wow, thank you, this is so wonderful.
Yeah.
Most of the unified commands have been advocating this for years. Now, those would be customers.
Yeah.
The customers have been advocating this for years, and it is gratifying to finally see public support for this concept from within NSA, which is rather amusing considering that it's definitely not support that is directly above it.
Definitely. Absolutely. That makes sense.
And then we understand how tough it will be to change the thinking of many. And that is almost seems to be a subtle reference to the dissenting opinion.
Yeah, that's true. Good point.
The folks who made roadbed, I would definitely make a note of roadbed.
Yeah, I had never heard that term before.
Related their struggle to us. So they're saying that already there is a program where the raw SIGINT has been supplied to the customers.
Yeah, okay.
And we understand the resistance to change.
Yeah.
So this is a really subtle way of them addressing it without directly addressing the dissenting opinion as a person, but just more, they're basically saying this is a, growing pains, change management, again, that standard corporate approach, because this is all what corporate change management is about. They always talk about resistance to change, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. What I find most significant about that document is the last line from the employee, where they say, now the customer will get the plate and the fork and get to dine at will.
Interesting. Yeah, that's a very, very important sentence.
What that means is that rather than the customer having to put in a specific information need request into the customer portal, they will be able to just sit on that information, sit on that data, and then come back to it whenever they want to. So they won't have to stipulate what their use is.
Yeah.
They could stipulate a broad use to obtain an entire database. And they might have many reasons over time that they would want to use that, but they're no longer having to justify those reasons to the NSA on a case-by-case basis.
It definitely allows them to bypass accountability again, for sure.
I think it would help them to bypass accountability and oversight, definitely. It's meaning they're not having to disclose their motives or reasoning to the NSA.
Which could then potentially be FOIA'd or otherwise scrutinized.
Well, I don't think any of this can be FOIA'd because it's all classified. Yeah. I guess maybe some of the unclassified parts. Well, I'm not sure. I assume NSA.
Well, I just mean like the potential.
Pretty sure they're exempt.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think this is a hugely significant discovery.
Definitely. Hugely
significant. Oh, awesome. Some of my old Occupy people are here. That's so cool. Cool. So yeah, I think this is massive. I'm just going to make a note of that document link, add it to my notes for the write-up. I think that's incredibly significant.
Definitely, me too. Yeah, my only other thought about the FOIA is that, you know, obviously even the average individual, you know, citizen that's submitting a FOIA to the government to request information, you have to have your reason for doing that, to specify it. It's this, you know, and so to have customers not have to submit any type of reasoning for their request is really amazing. It's really mind-blowing.
Yeah, what it means is they don't have to justify why they want a specific piece of information. They only have to justify why they're interested in the entire database.
Okay, yeah. Important differentiation for sure.
Exactly. So it's like saying, I'm interested in that pie, give it to me, but not saying I'm interested in that slice of the pie or that slice of the pie or that slice of the pie. It's allowing them to give a more high level justification for why they want information about a target.
Absolutely.
It allows them to be non-specific. We just got called super sleuths. How cool.
Yay. Well, the documents decide what type of interesting information we find, but Suzie's amazing experience in this definitely makes sure that we find what's there.
Dude, most of it's just instinct, honestly. It's definitely not training. It's totally instinct. Cool. Should we? I was going to say move on, but actually we're going back, right? We'll go back to number one. 171 was Baghdad.
No. 172 is Baghdad. 171 was. Oh, yeah, no, you're right. 171 was Baghdad. 170 was AP appoints new deputy production manager, which I thought because we'd gone over the Baghdad repost, I assumed that we'd probably gone over that too.
There's nothing in that anyway. I'm having a look at it now.
Okay, no problem.
Yeah, there's nothing in there. It's just an announcement of promotions.
Yeah, I guess we went through a couple more after the ag document the other day.
Okay, now we move on to Northeast Asian security.
Yep.
Cool, take it away.
All right. That is, and just for anybody else's notes, that is number 173 as far as the document file. Okay, so scholars speak on Northeast Asian security. This is from Redacted, and the subject is CINEO from CINEO for East Asia Strategic Intelligence Issues, S17. All of the paragraphs in this document are unclassified, and it begins on 21st of September 2004, which was a couple of months before this document was written. The Senior Council hosted leading specialists in their fields for a presentation and discussion on topics that challenge both US and regional security interests, with issues ranging from nuclear proliferation to growing competition for economic markets and energy sources. Northeast Asia challenges US interests both in the tactical how it is and in the strategic how can we shape it. I think that choice of words there is interesting, but not particularly significant. The NBR scholars presented findings from their recently published book, Strategic Asia 2004 to 2005, Confronting Terrorism in the Pursuit of Power, blah, blah, blah. The fourth volume is in the Asia series. And that focused on the global war on terrorism, resulting policy changes to the US and Asia, security challenges in Northeast Asia, consequences for US relations, and then the North and South Korean nuclear programs. So I don't see anything particularly groundbreaking. It's just telling us that they had a leadership.
And energy insecurity is interesting.
For sure.
They say nuclear programs and energy insecurity. Energy insecurity sounds like something that they want to exploit.
True. Yeah, so I will make a note of that on this document. It's like again, one of those contextual little sentences off the cuff that are helpful.
And how it is, and in the strategic, how can we shape it?
Yeah.
Is that, again, they're wanting to influence. And this is the word that we see again and again in the documents, influence. They're wanting to influence the future of Northeast Asia.
Very true. And so it kind of depicts the hypocrisy of the whole accusation of meddling against other countries. when you see it happening in their documents from 15 years ago, or, you know, so I will go on to the next document, which I'm going to go back to the list, stop sharing for a second.
Also, can you up your page size a little bit, please? Just for people like me that need bigger text.
Okay.
Laura says that we're seeing the chiseling away of accountability, and I think she's spot on.
Definitely.
In terms of the previous document.
Okay. Okay. I'm just seeing how I zoom in. I'll do it later. Okay. The issue management teams an update from SIGINT. And it's labeled secret, and it states that in July, we told you that SID had made changes to the issue management teams, IMTs, with the number of teams reduced from 14 to 7. And I think I remember going through this with Suzie, and we saw that the categories they had changed. And it says Gene Zimmer and Redacted are now acting as advisors and helping coordinate the IMTs. All the IMTs are now staffed, and spaces have been found where each team can be seated. Talks about a meeting that took place, and they're finalizing the IMT concept of operations, CONOP, being finalized in collaboration with SID deputy directorates. Is that significant, Suzie?
I'm just reading. Concept of operations being finalized in collaboration with the, I don't think so. It's still a planning thing. They're just working out what it is that they're going to do and how they're going to operate.
Good to know.
It looks like it might get more interesting in the coming paragraphs.
Yeah. Then it goes on to say the Iraq and Near East South Asia IMTs coordinate the DIRNSA's weekly Iraq campaign updates, which include online participation by NSA CSS representatives across the entire extended enterprise. IMTs also conduct a weekly campaign update and strategy meeting with SIGINT and the SID leadership team, with the SIGINT director and the SID leadership team. The Combating Proliferation IMT has worked to optimize SIGINT on potential terrorist use of weapons of mass destruction. And then it says IMTs are providing input to assess issues such as strategic assessment, risk assessments, and the Joint Quarterly Readiness Review, JQRR. Stay tuned for updates.
It's pretty much just organizational.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything particularly in.
Awesome. To 175. Okay, brown bag discussion. How our intelligence targets will communicate in 2007 to 2011. So this is another one of those future scenario planning things, but it's very short term. It's only a couple of years ahead.
I'm just going to tell you this. One of our regular people says, speaking of kicked off, that's what happened to me several times trying to watch your live stream on YouTube. Then my phone shut down for 10 minutes.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's funny. Yeah, I mean, when I've been streaming, I've had worse internet issues and connection dropouts than I usually do, for sure. It's, you know, it's one of those things, but.
Okay. So, this looks really interesting, how our intelligence targets will communicate in 2007 to 2011, because we're in 2004 in these documents, November 2004. Cool, let's go through it.
Yeah, so they're going three to more years ahead.
For me. Do you mind if I take us through this one?
Yeah, no, not a problem at all. I know that my screen needs to be a little bit zoomed in. And
I just have like nice granny size view on my Mac.
Awesome. Yeah, no, I'll figure that out after the stream's over.
Okay, here we go.
Great, perfect. Yeah, that's really great for reading along.
Okay, hold on one sec. Just going to kill my Discord, guys. Sorry, so I don't have constant messages popping up.
Yeah, no problem.
If you need me, get me in the Zoom or get me on Twitter or somewhere else. Okay, here we go. So they're just talking about a seminar they're having, but it's a particularly interesting topic for the seminar. SIGINT Development Strategy and Governance is pleased to announce the second of what will be monthly they're going to do this monthly. Oh no, it's just on SIGINT development topics, okay. Presenters are from Target Analysis Network, Network Analysis, which are all these centers are collectively the responsible for targeting. We believe these sessions will be of interest to those working in SIGINT development. From the target, okay, so these are NSA speakers. Our presentation will be a culmination of months of research and analysis aimed at helping to posture SID against strategic surprises. They're always obsessed with the crystal ball, looking into the future. We rely heavily on the expertise of our target officers, technologists, blah, blah, blah. We also use all source material to track the indicators of change in current and planned usage of technologies by our targets. So thinking about 2004, this is right as Facebook is just like rolling out, just really, really small. This is well before the prolific use of Twitter. Definitely. This is before most social media applications.
Absolutely.
And you know what? When they do these announcements of there being a seminar, let's take it off share for a sec, then they're so helpful as to give a post update about what was discussed in the seminar. Yeah, so it's almost guaranteed that we will come across another document in this batch, which will say, oh, we had the seminar about what systems targets are going to be using to communicate. And then they'll actually give some information about it. So it may be that this particular document is not interesting, but it will. Yeah. It will it shows us that there will be some interesting stuff on this topic later on.
Yeah. Yeah. It reminds us to have our ears open and our eyes open for the follow up of the event. Definitely.
So just have a quick look through the rest. The stronger the target evidence, we use to track the indicators of change in current and planned usage of technologies by our targets. The stronger the target evidence, the more certain SID is that its technology developments and investments are on track. This talk will provide information on our analytical methodologies. I'd love to read that, as well as the information that you need to know to track your intelligence targets and prepare your anticipatory. So this is getting into the not pre-crime stuff, but they're wanting to anticipate what their target will do ahead of time.
Definitely. And that makes sense, but it's good information to have.
So if they can accurately predict that 4 years ahead of time, then somewhere around 2013, they should have been predicting that their targets would be holding Zoom webinars and broadcasting live to YouTube.
It would be interesting if they did
analyze NSA documents.
It would be interesting if they did try predict something like that, or how close they got, for sure.
Somebody would definitely deserve a raise or a promotion.
or one of those coins, medals, a million awards they give out.
That's true. They can have a gold clock, for example. Okay.
Give them a gold iPhone instead.
So next one is HTML coding and email. So we've seen recently that they are getting their heads around Wi-Fi. They've actually set up a whole separate department to deal with Wi-Fi. And we've seen that they were trying to cope with MMS, like sending pictures by text message, multimedia text messages. And now it looks like they are dealing with emails that have embedded HTML rather than just plain text. So that would have been kind of cutting edge, I guess, thinking for 2004.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
So here we go. Ask Raul, HTML coding and email. From Raul, a DNI analyst. Hey Raul, I got this crazy numeric stuff the other day. Here's what it looks like. Is this some sort of encryption? Dear Tracy, believe it or not, it's just text. Some folks refer to it as HTML escape or HTML special character or Unicode. Or if you want to go by the RFC, numeric character reference. That level of specificity, the word that I can never say properly, is so NSA. So NSA. So they're just deciphering the formatting of that piece of HTML and explaining to them that every, I want to say the alpha letter has a, like pictures have a hexadecimal code. They have decimal codes or hex codes for letters.
Okay.
Be they whatever alphabet they're from. And then that's how to put them together. So they can, what they're saying is that they can literally know what letters this is or what word is being represented by what that code is. It's very simple, is used quite commonly and has been for many years. So this actually, I'm wrong, this wasn't about HTML templates for email, but it's probably maybe 2004, it's still a little bit early for that, possibly. It seems to be a new thing for most NSA analysts, but it gets better. Most email tools are normally set by default to send a text and an HTML version of a mail message. Okay.
The fact that having to explain this is interesting.
Yeah, I can't remember what year it was that like we would first see advanced HTML templates for email. I don't remember them being that far back, but these guys, well, then again, who knows? NSA had a, interagency multimedia portal in 1997.
Yeah, exactly.
So NSA probably had HTML templates for emails, years before anyone else did.
It seems really backwards to see that in that order, like 10 years almost later, to have them have a multimedia portal, but then not know how this works. And I suppose that they may have had it, but maybe, the average employee didn't know some of these basics at that time, or even way later, obviously.
Well, you think about like when was the proliferation of digital cameras?
True. I mean, from my memory, it was about 2004 is when it really started in a big way. In my area anyway.
Where I was in 1993, people were running around with rolls of film and getting them developed. But if NSA had a multimedia portal, then that you would assume that they also have access to digital cameras. So they must have access to advanced hardware as well as to advanced software.
Yeah, true. I don't know. What do you think? Do you think that the average employee just didn't know about a lot of this, or about the advanced ability?
The average employee doesn't know about a ton. Like, what is the purpose of SIDToday? The purpose is to teach them what they don't know about each other's jobs, about the different divisions at the NSA, and about general technology. So we're seeing, when they talk about MMS, they actually explain this is what MMS is.
Yeah.
And they do this continually with the same with Wi-Fi. I mean, in that Wi-Fi document, they're actually explaining what Wi-Fi is.
Yeah, definitely. I remember that would be a big one to write about too. Definitely.
So they're upskilling their employees through SIDToday. It's not just like a human interest newsletter. Sometimes it is when they do the Lonely Planet for Spies stuff, and they're like that's a bit more, it has a human interest element, but primarily they're upskilling. And also if we go back to them having 8,000 analysts out of 12,000 workforce, roughly 8,000 linguists, not analysts, I'm sorry, linguists. Your average linguist isn't going to have a clue how to code HTML. Your average linguist is going to look at that Unicode in an email and go, holy crap, what is this? And that's illustrated by them saying, is it some kind of encryption? Because they don't know. They have no idea. So I think very much we're seeing them upskill their workforce. Definitely. I'll finish off with a doc because there might be something else in there.
Yeah, and as you're starting, it's interesting to see them throw in, the human interest and the awards ceremonies all over the place amongst their efforts to educate their employees.
Interesting. They're saying they can use it for by searching in the back end. They can use it for email retrieval when they think they've lost it in the front end. As you well know, all non-7-bit material going into Lionheart gets indexed as though it were 7-bit. So a perfectly good foreign text term actually gets indexed as something it is not. If you are lucky and have a target that uses a character set such as Koi 8, this bit stripping results in what looks like very good transliteration. Is that what they're doing about? Translate. If you are unlucky and your target is using something like CP1251, then that bit stripping produces a mess. For example, the Russian word for tank comes out of this index processing as this. So they're saying that Unicode can look very different depending on what character set the target is using. So you have to convert it back to NCR so that it can be searched on universally.
Okay.
Yeah, here we go. So as I suspected, this is targeted at the linguists. If this is the first time you've heard of NCR and you're a linguist, you'll probably be amazed at what you can find on the internet using NCR strings. There are many things that normally do not show up in your other types of queries. That could be powerful for a journalist as well. That could be very powerful. Making things even better, this NCR form is absolutely beautiful for selection and filtering or searching. What's more, since this form uses nothing but 7-bit characters, it can go through systems which will destroy 8-bit traffic. This means if you know what you're doing, you can recover a perfect email message from a session which appears to have been totally lost. Ever seen a piece of email where the entire foreign language portion was nothing but question marks? Chances are that the same email had an HTML double with it containing the NCR. Old Roll used to use this magic when he was in the office of Russia to recover totally destroyed email. When Raul left, so did the technique. So Tracy, there you go. It's usually the simple little things that bite us in the rear. That is extremely powerful in terms of web searching.
Yeah, definitely.
So imagine if you could actually search on the internet, you could potentially pick up things that are otherwise undecipherable.
True.
That is quite a good trick. It's a very good trick. And I think we're already through our first 6 documents.
Yeah, I think we've breezed through really well today so far.
I wouldn't consider that newsworthy, but I would think that it would be quite useful for journalists to understand that they don't just have to search on text as we know it in the English alpha.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, we are up to 177.
Fantastic. That's almost 10 documents already. Wonderful.
Okay, 177, they're just talking about where they're recruiting to, and it doesn't seem to be anything particularly interesting.
Okay.
It's like an internal job fair.
Okay, yeah, we've seen
but the jobs are pretty like standard stuff, like trainers and human resources, and they do ask for people to live and work in Augusta, San Antonio, Denver, and Honolulu. But really, that's about it.
Augusta, where? Like
Augusta, Georgia, it must be, right? It's in Georgia.
I know there's an Augusta in Arkansas, but that's tiny and doesn't have. I mean, that's like a bump in the road.
I'm pretty sure that's Georgia because Georgia has a big NSA presence.
Yeah. Oh, okay, that makes sense then.
Okay, so we are on 178, and I will share screen.
Okay, great.
NSA hosts conference on support to law enforcement. They hosted a cryptanalytics support to law enforcement conference. Okay, so this is hosted in the past tense, so this should actually give us some details. This conference had the distinction of being the first time all 5 SIGINT partners met to discuss support to law enforcement partners. This should be very interesting, because we don't often hear about spying in a domestic law enforcement context.
True.
But there's been a lot happening in New Zealand around revealing GCSB's role in support to law enforcement.
Absolutely.
Law enforcement representation included the FBI, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, UK's National Technical Assistance Centre, and they didn't even bother to list the Australian or New Zealand ones. The shared goal of the conference participants was to develop a true understanding of the needs of their law enforcement and SIGINT partners. So all of those law enforcement agencies are customers of the NSA. The first 2 days involved briefings and discussions focused on legal guidelines and authorities, law enforcement needs, SIGINT partners' procedures for accepting and fulfilling requests for technical assistance. The rest of the conference focused on discussions highlighting equity sharing concerns between the SIGINT partners and law enforcement. Equity sharing concerns. What are their equity sharing concerns? While it was clear that the SIGINT partners were interested in supporting law enforcement, protecting our SIGINT equities was an extremely important issue, and discussions on how to protect those equities followed. So this ties back into the parallel reconstruction stuff that we were talking about in the last episode, where often these law enforcement agencies are receiving information from the spies that they can't confirm or use in a court of law. They can't confirm where they got it, and therefore they can't use it in a court of law. So what they do is they take what they already know and they find other ways to prove it. And then they, let me try and think of some really banal example. Like the NSA says Susie's sack of gold is in her safe, and the law enforcement agency says, well, we can't go to the court and say we know that Susie's sack of gold is in her safe. Therefore, what we would do is, in some really dodgy case, plant some drugs in Susie's house so that we can go and raid her house and then happen across her safe in the course of executing our search warrant. And then, if you want to play it straight, then maybe they would, find out that Suzie has some stolen DVD in her house and therefore, use that as a pretext to discover that she has a safe with a sack of gold in it, and then can go running to the court and say, well, this is how we know that she had the sack of gold, because we happened to cross it in the course of our ordinary investigation into the stolen DVDs.
Exactly.
That's parallel reconstruction, and that's been happening all of the time, and that is not okay. It is not okay for them to exploit SIGINT and then pretend that they never had it in the first place.
Absolutely.
Okay. So this is interesting that the NSA is saying that the spy agencies are wanting to protect their, I want to know what this equities means. Equity sharing concerns, and then protecting our SIGINT equities. They've got that twice in one paragraph. 3 times discussions on how to protect those equities followed. Through these open and frank discussions, it was very apparent that all partners go to great lengths to protect our very important and most sensitive assets.
And they say our, not their. It's just their, it's our.
It's also interesting because this seems to be almost a direct violation of the whole information sharing principle. Like Transformation 2.0 was all about sharing the intelligence out between the agencies. But this equity thing, I really want to know, is that between first tier and second tier parties? Or is it between spies versus law enforcement? And equity sounds suspiciously like there's money or
that's a financial
or some value. Equity sharing is, okay, we've just been sent this tip. Equity sharing is another name for shared ownership or co-ownership. It takes one property, more than one owner, and blends them to maximize profit and tax deductions. Typically, the parties find a home and buy it together as co-owners, but sometimes they join to co-own a property one of them already owns.
Yeah. So it's like having a percentage in something as well is another way to phrase it. But
I'm really interested to know what the financial implications are.
Well, at the very least, it's talking about, I believe, some sort of intelligence as a financial product for the millionth time that we've seen.
Yeah, for the millionth time, because we know that customers pay money.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's just another, yeah.
So is it how much money do they pay, or how much do they get for their money? Somehow it stinks of all tying into money somehow.
Definitely.
I don't know how they have capitalized this, but somehow they have. And I think maybe if we just keep studying, we'll eventually come across the key to understanding it. Protect our very important and most sensitive assets. See, they're not talking about like protecting from a privacy perspective at all. They're talking about protecting from a business perspective.
Asset, yeah, money, for sure. And it goes back as well to what you've described before as far as like tiered intelligence sharing. Once again, they're wanting to protect their larger piece of the pie at the expense of everybody else. It sounds like.
Well, when they say protect our very important and most sensitive assets, it seems to be the sources.
Yeah, that's true.
Assets in an intelligence context usually means sources, but all of that talk about equity, they're not talking about sharing sources. That's definitely has some kind of value, content, financial value.
For sure.
Yeah, be it short or long term. As a result of the conference, the attendees agreed upon a mutual set of guiding principles to shape and facilitate our relationship with the law enforcement community. Ultimately, all participants left the conference with a greater appreciation for each other's commitment to supporting law and blah, 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 blah. Confidence in our procedures to protect each other's equities for the 5th time in this document. That was the word equities.
That's amazing.
And I mean, understanding as to how the laws of each country works in that protection.
And the thing is too that we've seen, as you said, we've seen so much reference to intelligence in financial terms, but I don't think I've seen equity come up in a document specifically before, and much less like 5 times.
Now, other factor here is that the New Zealand equivalent of the FBI would be the New Zealand SIS, and the New Zealand SIS is supposed to be restricted by its charter to only spy on New Zealand citizens. So that's a really interesting factor in this, is that these law enforcement agencies are domestic. They are internal to the countries that they represent. And most of those countries in 2004 would not be supposed to be spying on their own citizens. So for this cooperation, it should be the FBI investigating someone outside of the United States, right? For them to be, I mean, otherwise what they're saying is that these domestic agencies this may in fact be a confirmation that they were receiving and accessing signals intelligence on their own citizens well before they were supposed to be.
Yeah, that's very, very true. And that's really potentially huge, I think.
Now I'm trying to remember, because somewhere there was, in the 88 plus citizens that had been illegally targeted by the GCSB in New Zealand, somewhere there was dates. And I thought it was 2007 that was the earliest case of them doing it. So I think this 2004 could be really significant. Definitely. The fact that the domestic law enforcement agency was a customer of the GCSB and receiving signals intelligence in 2004 would be really interesting.
Definitely.
If they're doing it because they're investigating foreigners on our soil, then that would be in line with their charter. But if they were at all receiving data on New Zealand citizens, that is a giant freaking no-no.
Definitely.
Giant no-no. Tip. I think equity sharing is using the other's assets or facilities in ways that are illegal to be done on their own citizens by proxy. Now, see, that makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense. So then they are openly planning that they will have another agency supply the data to the domestic law enforcement agency of another country.
Now, how would we confirm that? Because I think
that's epic amounts of collusion. Well, the fact that they were doing that, there's many cases of. So we know for a fact that when NSA, when FBI or whatever wanted information on an American citizen, they would go to GCHQ.
Yeah.
And this is exactly what happened with the 88 cases in New Zealand. The GCSB referred them to the NSA. They referred their own citizens to the NSA as targets. They were target referrals. They had the NSA spy on New Zealand citizens. And the funny thing is they thought that doing that made their hands clean, but actually it made them dirty. It made them twice as dirty.
Absolutely. Yeah, so to think that this is pushing back the date on that type of thing so early is really amazing. We're coming across a lot.
I think the fact that this was 2004 is one of the most significant factors in this document.
Definitely.
And I think that we have a lot more to learn about that word equities.
Absolutely. I'm hoping it comes up again so that we can compare it. I'm hoping it comes up again so that we can compare it and see if it's used similarly. I'm 99% sure, obviously it's a financial term, but I want to, as you said, I want to know what they're defining it, what they're referring to financially with that. So.
Who is the author of this document? The author is the Exploitation Operations Policy and Actions Division. Sorry, just check chat because people are actually asking us questions.
Yeah, I'm reading through right now as well.
Oh, that's so cool. There's so many people coming in saying hi to us.
Yeah, it's great seeing you all here.
Do you guys have any questions about this before we move on? Radiant says that emails are the ultimate spying tool. I think mobile phones are probably the ultimate spying tool, but definitely emails were up there. Pocketbook says HTML email was around since 1997, so it sounds like they're explaining it to tech noobs. That would be right.
Like me, yeah.
That would be right.
Yeah, but it's interesting that their tech noobs were having to still have this explained to them that late. I still think that's interesting too.
OcuWorld, they're discussing conversion of character sets, yes, and problems have said work a lot with this dealing with OcuWorld works a lot with this dealing with multilingual news sources. Very cool. Actually, this is some important base info for cyber forensics. OcuWorld, why didn't we get you in here 20 episodes ago? You're awesome to have here.
Seriously.
You're so awesome to have here.
Please come back next time.
I love people who give us supplementary information. It's so helpful because I just simply don't have the level of expertise to know it all. Kathy B's just clicked onto where it says and New Zealand respectively. Yeah, exactly. Even little old New Zealand is neck deep in all of this. So OcuWorld says that SIGINT equity is definitely the intelligence market. He says Google SIGINT equity.
Okay. I will look that up, but I won't Google it.
Radiant says that Boeing has a secret bank. Well, we discovered that there is an NSA corporation that is not the NSA.
Yeah, that was a really interesting.
It was really fascinating.
I want to follow up on that as well.
Specifically, when they could not get funding for a project within the NSA, it was an option to go to the NSA corporation and ask for funding. What the hell?
Yeah, exactly. Huge questions. And I'm hoping we see some more documents that reference that so we can cross-reference and compare.
Radiant says they probably paid the US to spy on you since they couldn't. You know what's worse? What's worse is they didn't even pay the NSA to spy on us. They got paid by the NSA to have their entire internet cable tapped and piped all of the info to the NSA and took money for that. Not to mention have the capacity for the NSA to operate all of New Zealand's spy equipment, all their hardware, their satellite, absolutely everything. And so they literally received money for shipping their own citizens' data to a foreign government and then said, oh, hey, we kind of want to spy on some of our citizens. So can you spy on them for us? Yeah, no problems.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, QL, it's waving at you.
Okay, World, you're awesome. I hope you come back for an next.
Fly has just linked the short clip to NSA versus NSA Corporation. That's so helpful, Fly. Yeah, that's the clip where we discovered this NSA Corporation.
Yeah, that was fascinating. Absolutely awesome.
Laura says, never realized until these sessions that linguistics would be the desired skills of the new empire. Look, we didn't know that people who did degrees in international relations were spies. But that was yet another thing that we found out. Either linguistics or international relations is the pathway to employment with the NSA.
Yeah, or any other intelligence agencies.
Nor did we know, I certainly didn't know, that the international relations NGOs that are supposed to be about diplomacy and teaching people, educating people about all the other countries in the world, are fronts for the NSA, and that they run these like competitions for kids and they take all the data from the kids and all the intelligence and they give it to the NSA to write their strategic planning documents based on everything. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, future planning documents free from
they called it a recruiting tool. The NSA called the international relations NGOs a recruitment tool.
That was in batch 3, I think, right? Or was that early in batch 4?
I can't remember, to be honest.
I think it was batch 3, but I don't know. It doesn't really matter.
It's just unbelievable. They've got these tools and everything. It goes to show like how much in what we think of as the public, like civilian realm, that's the word. It goes to show how much exists in the civilian realm that we think is just like legit normal civilian organization, and it's actually the intelligence agencies.
Exactly. That's an that's an extremely important issue. And I think finding documentation of these organizations is amazingly important. And I think that a lot of other organizations that are not maybe mentioned in these documents, you can see the similar pattern happening of government relationships with these groups. So,
and I feel like with our big discoveries about the UN and the intelligence, the role of the intelligence agencies in the UN process.
Yeah.
And the role of them in the war and in the wars and targeting the wars, targeting systems in the wars. Like we found that like virtual trap wire where they like have the like push notifications and everything in the targeting systems. And something I haven't got to talk about yet, but I will be talking about very soon, which is, I did a couple of tweets about it, which is that this week I discovered that Tor, the anonymity service, is a part of the software kill chain. So so these analysts who are all these targeting centers and blah, 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 they are using Tor at work every day to target people who the commands then send their teams out to go and capture and kill operations, they call them in NSA documents.
Killing.
Yeah, capture and kill operations. So that's incredibly fascinating information to have, especially when you mix it up with some other things. Well, it's fascinating to me because Tor is being pushed as a tool for internet freedom, and they want as many people to use it as possible. The reason for that is because the normal regular users mask the kill traffic. I don't know what else to call it than kill traffic.
That's awful.
They mask Exactly. So anyone who's then analysing or penetrating Tor won't be able to isolate the NSA analyst using it, or whoever, DoD, in a capture and kill operation. They won't be able to, because they are obscured by all of the regular traffic. But then there's another massive case that has been going on in the last couple of years, where Carnegie Mellon University researchers were paid by the government to unmask Tor users. So on one hand, the government wants regular users to flock to Tor for internet freedom, to mask the capture and kill operation traffic, but then they turn around and de-anonymize all of the Tor users so that they can then do two things. One, analyze the behaviors of Tor and isolate everybody who's using it. And then two, to target based off that, because in that traffic, they might find a foreign intelligence service, they might find an anti-GMO activist, they might be just normal activists using Tor, all types of things. So I found it really interesting. I've been doing a lot of research in recent weeks into this, because I, like almost all of the privacy activists, I was hugely into Tor. I have laptops with Tor stickers all over them. I think Tor is the greatest thing ever, because for me as an activist, I felt significantly more protected. But we already know from the Snowden documents that Tor users were targets just for being Tor users, NSA targets.
Yeah.
We know that Jacob Applebaum's Tor bridge was one of 6 or 7 Tor bridges, essentially host, for want of a better explanation for you guys, essentially host the Tor network as a backbone of the Tor network, was an NSA key score target. So it just goes to show how something is sold to us as an apple, but it's actually a rotten banana.
Yeah, and that's so sad when something that has so much promise and so much hope associated with it is shown to be that involved in targeting people. That's horrific. And I see that in chat, Fly, Kathy B, and some others are posting some of the old clips actually on the different findings we had related to all of this with Negroponte, Bremer, and some others. I'm just thinking them. Yeah, no, this is insane revelations that are coming out of this, for sure.
And I'd just like to say too that you're damned if you do and damned if you don't, because even if you're not, I'm not saying don't use Tor or become a target, because the problem with mass surveillance is that everybody is a friggin' target. They are going to collect your information, whether it's encrypted or not. They're going to collect it whether you're a Tor user or not. Like you might be targeted because you use Tor, but you might also be targeted because you use plain text because you don't use Tor. You can be targeted either way. It comes down to collect it all. Like their principle of collect it all. They'll collect Tor users and non-Tor users, and they'll target Tor users and non-Tor users. But what I did not realize, and what has completely changed my understanding of Tor as a product and system, and in the way it's promoted, is to know that it is a critical part of the capture kill operations software kill chain.
And it's definitely important for people to understand that they aren't able to hide from this type of surveillance through methods like that. Like you aren't just going to be off the surveillance hook if you go into Tor. If
you use it, it should be an educated decision. But if you don't use it, you should be aware that you're being collected on by default.
Yeah, it's
everybody is going into that Utah data center. Whether your traffic is encrypted or not, they're going to store it until they can decrypt it. At some point in the future, they will be able to decrypt it. Even those who they might not be able to unmask now, in 10 or 20 years, they might be able to. Hopefully by then it'll be too late for them to run a capture kill operation on those people, but they will still do it. They'll store it. They'll store any data, no matter whether it's encrypted or not.
It's true.
Okay, on that happy note, let's move on to the next document.
Yeah, I'm just retweeting. I'm not writing tweets. I'm just kind of bumping them as we shift over to a new document.
That's fascinating. Cockatoo just said that captured Tor messages could also have commercial value if offered to foreign intelligence.
Oh, that's awful and very, very true sounding to me.
Oh, I'm definitely sorry. I'm not going to do it right this second, but unless Elizabeth already has. Elizabeth, have you looked up the SIG equity?
No, I haven't. I was listening.
Okay.
I was paying attention raptly to what we were saying.
I'm definitely going to look it up. I'm not going to do it right this minute. You can. Oh, are you doing it now?
I'm searching for it now, and I'll see what I find.
Okay, cool. I'm just going to grab some more tea. I'll be right back. I'd love to know. I'd love to know what you see.
Okay, yeah, I see a couple of different articles. I think obviously, across the internet, equity and SIGINT are going to have equity in terms of SIGINT are going to have different meanings. So the meaning that's in the document that we were looking at wouldn't be the meaning that some of these articles are going towards. For example, a lot of what I'm seeing right now is equity used in terms of the salary that like SIGINT and analyst salary, which is, as far as I can tell, irrelevant. I think it's just picking up the general terms that are used on a business site. Okay, yeah. Let me see. I'm looking at an article about cybersecurity saying we've deluded ourselves for years. Okay, so I found an article on nextgov.com that says the second paragraph reads, "It's been going on in US government circles for decades, especially since creating the national NSA in 1952. It's a practice called SIGINT equity in NSA parlance." And then it's talking about another article that talks about this. Okay. It's talking about it's talking about the fact that the Snowden disclosures have revealed some issues with SIGINT equity. It says that's why we're now seeing the indictments of foreign state actors for hacking. Our government could have done this before 2014 if it wanted to, but it didn't, partly because of SIGINT equity type concerns. So I'm going to actually share screen and let you guys look at this with me because I think it's a relevant article, and Suzie can correct me if it's not later. And so this article, and I've searched Control F, I've searched for the word equity, and it's going through it a number of times, and it's talking about another article that I'll switch over to in a moment that talks about cybersecurity issues. So I'm not going to read all of the article because I don't know that it's all relevant, and it's talking about Snowden files in general, which obviously we're looking at, but it talks about SIGINT equity concerns. And cybercrime, security threats, and vulnerabilities. And it's interesting as well because, again, this article in particular is going on about, it is very much focusing on vulnerabilities, and yet we don't see that concern much at all in the actual NSA documents. So I'm going to switch over to this, which is the piece that they are referencing. This is obviously, these articles are from around 2014. When the fallout from the Snowden files was really raging. I'm going to search for equity again. Oh, it's not there. I'll look at it anyway. So yeah, this references the US government indicting Chinese military officials for hacking. And it's talking about the issues with legal issues with defendants from the Chinese government and its soldiers, and the fact that they can't extradite them to the US. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing a second, and I'm going to check chat to see if anybody else has found anything on this while I've been searching. Yeah, if anybody, I see OcuWorld. Yeah, that's the we've deluded ourselves for years, I believe, is the first article I looked at. And Kathy B, I see that you've written that page 113 has SIG and equity, and I assume you're talking about, no, you can't be talking about document 113. Can you just specify, if you can, Kathy, on what you're referring to with 113? I'm not sure if you mean this 113 Snowden file, but I will actually right now search WikiLeaks and the Snowden documents for the word equity. Not general equity, but NSA and SIG equity. Okay. Thank you, Kathy, for linking that book. I'm going to look at that in 1 second. First, I'm going through the Snowden files to see if I can find any results. Okay, I've got a number of different documents coming up with equity across the different Snowden files just by searching edwardsnowden.com. And there's a number of them, so I'm just going through.
How awesome is that website?
Hmm?
How awesome is that website?
Yeah, really.
Livestreamed.com is a really, really good website.
Absolutely.
Really good. And I love that it goes even like way beyond just the mainstream media reporting or intercept reporting. There's so much information on there.
Definitely. Absolutely. And there's a whole lot, there's a number of different documents that mention equity as well. Definitely. So I don't know if we want to go through them all right now, but I can link a lot of them when we write up our notes for sure. The first one just talks about compromise of equity leading to loss of capability and discovery of other operations. There's another document that is top secret. It's an NSA security service information paper, and it's regarding Israel and the NSA's intelligence relationship with Israel. Interesting.
MSM Chick says the head of the FBI stated today that encryption is the #1 safety issue to the people.
Right.
Reals, right. OcuWorld says they're very blunt concerning exploitation and violation of other human beings. That is really, really true. You see exploit all the time, exploit this, exploit that, and also influence. Influence, yeah. You constantly see them. And we've seen them talking about influence in terms of influencing the future of technology, influencing software development and design.
Absolutely.
You know, they're incredibly ambitious. You've got to give them that. They really are very, very ambitious.
It's true.
Thank you, OcuWorld. You realize I'm at Indakin, right? I'm not sure if you realize that. You followed and retweeted and reblogged my work all the way since from 2011.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
Yeah, really. I deeply
so cool.
appreciate it. Everything my Occupy media team did in New Zealand, OcuWorld just consistently shared and published and circulated year after year after year.
That's
amazing. And that meant a lot to us because we're getting constantly either blacked out or lied about by the MSM.
Yeah.
So it's huge. There's kind of solidarity that is OcuWorld is like the definition of solidarity. It's like 24/7 solidarity. So thank you so much. You know, when you really are putting your butt on the line to do stuff, it means the world for people to actually pay attention and actually share it.
Yeah, that's the most amazing thing is when somebody has obviously, read your work, responds to stuff that you wrote in the piece, and then shares it and tells other people about it. It's the most amazing feeling to know that information is being actually taken in by someone.
Yeah, now everyone's shouting out to OcuWorld. Honestly, OcuWorld deserves all the shout outs that you can give them. They've been amazing support for activists all over the world, literally. Oh, Rise PDX is here too. Now that's another old school name. So Rise PDX is the same thing. And same thing. I mean, my media team always circulated your guys' work as well. You know, it's total solidarity. But Rise PDX is an amazing streamer. Is one of our awesome Occupy streamers and is yet another person who's been targeted for their work. So shout out to you as well. Thank you for being here and thank you for supporting this series and this stream.
Yeah, it is an honor to have so many amazing people here with us tonight and all the other nights as well.
We are super lucky.
Yeah, and also thank you to everyone who's been tweeting and retweeting and tagging us and all that sort of thing. I really, really appreciate that because like Suzie said before, we get caught up in the research and we don't tweet constantly all the time. We've done a decent job today though. Oh wait, Suzie, I think you've muted yourself.
Oh, sorry. I was just saying that for once the YouTube stream is almost synced with us in real time. That's interesting.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah. Okay, so we keep going. I think we've got about another like half an hour max. And
yeah, let's do that for sure.
Okay, so we are up to. Let me see.
Yeah, we've been through like
law enforcement support.
Yeah. We've been through a number of really amazing documents this evening, so that's great to make some progress.
Okay, the next one is on Iraq. Most of the documents that are related to Iraq were reported on by the Intercept, and in this series we usually avoid what has been reported on by Intercept and just cover documents or tidbits of information that we haven't seen in the Intercept reporting. So I have a read through this, but it's probably unlikely that there's anything that we would report on.
Yeah.
Prototype collection systems deployed to Iraq from Ops Officer, Signal Survey and Analysis. Since the fall of the Saddam Hussein regime in Iraq over a year and a half ago, there has been a continuing proliferation of new communications technologies into the region, as well as a morphing enemy of insurgents and foreign fighters. To keep pace with this technology explosion, the Signal Survey and Analysis Division, in conjunction with the National Reconnaissance Office, has deployed and installed 3 prototype signal discovery systems in and around Baghdad. Unfortunately, we can't see the photos because they didn't come with their original HTML. SIGINT TiVo is a high-capacity wideband digital recording system that is remotely controlled by the Signals Development Center. Each system continuously redacted.
Wow, this is interesting. This is the second time we've ever seen that, I think, right?
Right, so for that to be redacted, it means it must be in use at the time that this document was vetted by the NSA. It would have to be something that is critical to a current or ongoing mission.
Wow, that is amazing.
something continuously, something, 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 spectrum utilizing 4 tunable receivers, something, 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 and a 16-hour buffer, which allows analysts to retrieve archived data, save to semi-permanent storage, conduct initial analysis, and exfiltrate data files remotely. Top secret. The primary purpose of the SIGINT TiVo is to do signal discovery in Baghdad, to search for new, unknown, or variant signals within the VHF-UHF spectrum. To date, this mission has been successful. The STC, utilizing the TiVo, was the first element to collect and report data on a new CDMA cellular network used by the Iraqi government. It has discovered and resolved 4 new TDM signals and assisted NSA with the development of their system to exploit the APCO 25 communication system used by Baghdad police. Right, let's just and see what that TDM is. Time division multiplex.
Okay. Yeah, and not only do we have one, like we don't just have one textual redaction, we have 2 of them in the same sentence, 2 separate sections of redaction, which is huge, I think.
I found it interesting that they left the words in the middle, spectrum utilizing 4 tunable receivers. So they don't mind telling you what it's comprised of, but they won't tell you what it's doing.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Very.
The secondary purpose, also somewhat interesting, though I assume probably not anomalous, is that a target is the Iraqi police force.
Yeah.
Top secret. True. The secondary purpose is to do signal and target development. I hate them using the word development in the context of targeting people. This mission is still evolving, but the Signals Survey and Analysis Division remains very optimistic about its potential, which includes the capability to geolocate signals of interest. It is now, see, this sounds like all well and good, like, you know, they're targeting terrorists or insurgents or whatever. But let's just remember what we've seen in previous documents. There was a document specifically relating to Iraq where they talked about monitoring media signals.
Yeah.
Where it was very clear that live streamers, independent media, could be picked up by a system exactly like this.
Yeah. And
monitored like this. And we remember that Al Jazeera was bombed in Iraq, that their TV station was bombed.
Yeah.
For it to have been bombed, they must have been monitoring its signals. Absolutely. They must have developed it as a target. So media can go through this whole targeting life cycle.
Absolutely.
And when they're talking about signals and monitoring signals, they can be talking about civilian targets and not just military targets.
Definitely. And we've talked about examples of that before as well, that you've given. Yes, and it's really, really hugely important that people do understand that that's what this reference is to. It doesn't have to be, a military target at all. It can be any target.
It is continuing to refine its concept of operations. So that concept of operations is that planning phase that we were talking about previously in relation to the issue management teams, was it? Or something like that. So a concept of operations is obviously something that they develop for all aspects of their business, their teams, their resources. It is, I assume, that it is some kind of executive summary. So like it's some kind of short version of what it is that they are doing and what their motivation is and what they are wanting to achieve. The principles of the undertaking.
That makes sense.
To analyze the signals environment surrounding particular events, such as an IED detonation, mortar rocket attack, or ambush, or a broadcast.
Here we go again, yeah.
No, I just inserted that. That's not in the document. Oh, okay. I'm just saying, you know.
I was remembering the other document about broadcasts, yeah.
I doubt there was any IEDs happening inside the Al Jazeera newsroom. The SEC analysts pull recorded data from the TiVo to determine what signals were active 10 minutes before and after the events in an attempt to identify the particular detonation signal itself, if applicable, or to identify anti-Iraqi forces command and control communications. This analysis is shared directly with the appropriate target officers, as well as the 1st Cavalry Division's analysis and control element in Baghdad. The actual deployment was conducted in 2 phases, both in conjunction with other missions. Phase 1 included the deployment of one of these systems to Camp Prosperity. They named the palace Camp Prosperity.
Wow.
Are you joking me?
Gross.
Saddam's palace, adjacent to the Green Zone in central Baghdad. Phase 2, conducted from blah, 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 included the deployment of 2 more systems, one to Camp Falcon in southern Baghdad and one to Camp Patriot in eastern Baghdad. Camp Prosperity.
It's literally almost as if they're just coming out right out and saying, hi, we came in and looted the place, like the entire country.
I assume that you could go one step further and say that that is where the mountainous pallets of US dollars were kept. Yeah. Remember that they chop it in, those untold millions of dollars or billions of dollars in cash. And there's photos of them unloading these giant pallets of shrink-wrapped cash.
It would make sense if that's where it
and
was.
I assume that would have been at Camp Prosperity, and I assume that Camp Prosperity is where Ambassador Bremer was.
Yeah, definitely. That sounds right.
The missing billions that they then couldn't account for.
Yeah.
Signals that survey and now they want to thank various people who are involved. The European Technical Centre for Logistical Support in Germany. So that means that Germany is not just involved as a lily pad base for drone operations in the current times, but actually was involved in the Iraq War itself.
Yeah.
Multinational forces for their support in getting TiVo into the theatre. Okay, let's see what chat has to say about that.
Yeah, I'm just looking at chat right now. I'm seeing some new faces with us. That's so awesome to see you all here. In addition to the people that Susie's talked about from Occupy and longtime supporters. I'm noticing a few new people. It's wonderful to see.
I've got a big smile. I feel a bit stupid that I didn't actually reach out to all these people. Because I mean, I would always send all my work, you know, whenever I published something or whenever I streamed an event or whatever to OccuWorld.
Yeah.
It didn't occur to me until today to actually say, oh, hey guys, did you know we're doing this?
Yeah, absolutely.
Makes me feel silly when it's like episode 20. But please, yeah, anywhere that you can spread it would be a huge help, because in case you haven't noticed, there's no big name sharing this.
Yeah.
There's no organization sharing this. There's no Russian bots sharing this. There's no NSA bots sharing, the FBI bots sharing this.
Yeah.
So if this information is going to get out to a lot of people, it's going to have to happen by word of mouth. It's going to have to happen by you guys approaching people one by one and saying, have you seen this? Did you know this? Tell other people about this.
Yeah.
And one day, let's get that hashtag trending, because that should open a lot of eyes.
Yeah, I always use the Decipher You hashtag when I post our watch link and related tweets like that.
How are we going? Okay, we're nearly 2 hours, like another 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay, let me have a look. I'm just going to cherry pick something good. Okay, since we're on the topic of Iraq, let's move on to perception versus reality.
Definitely.
In Baghdad. One from Ops Officer Signal Survey and Analysis. One of the most fascinating discoveries you'll make during a deployment to Iraq, in addition to a new multiplex communication signal, is discovering the difference between perception and reality.
Really?
During my first visit to Iraq, the perception was that NSA was more of a hindrance than a provider. However, we are fantastic and everyone loves us. No, where are we at? During my last visit, that perception was mostly changed due in large part to the implementation of the cryptologic support team at the division level. The CST, comprised of NSA service members, alleviates much of the previous frustration by giving the 1st Cavalry Division a single point of contact for all NSA issues, literally at arm's reach. Additionally, we at NSA must remember that every person we send forward is a representative of the entire agency, and perceptions are formed based on each person's performance, either good or bad. Another perception that changes when you deploy is that of what is actually happening in Iraq. There is a huge difference between, sorry, I'm going to cough, hang on.
No problem.
It's getting really dry in here again.
Yeah, I'm downing water very rapidly because of the winter air.
There's a huge difference between seeing the aftermath of an IED on CNN and feeling the concussion of it in your own chest, talking to the soldiers that were wounded, and attending a memorial service for a soldier that bravely gave his life for his comrades. Iraq is still a very dangerous place where our brothers and sisters in arms are making the ultimate sacrifice on a daily basis, but the sense of hopelessness we sometimes sense from the news media is not there. Yeah, well, fast forward to 2006 or 2007, I think you'll find there's a whole lot more hopelessness. Our service members in Iraq are motivated, they believe in their mission, they understand its importance, and they know we will come out victorious. When you meet and get to know the soldiers you're supporting, it increases your sense of urgency. Not your urgency to see who can be the first one out of the parking lot at 3:30, but your urgency to figure out what else you can do that might save a life. So once again, we are seeing the contrast between documents that are saying, come to Iraq for your deployment because actually it's pretty safe and it's nothing, you know, it's actually not as dangerous as you see on TV. And then you contrast that with documents like this where they're saying actually it is really dangerous, people are dying, etc., etc., etc.
Yeah. Yeah, this is, I mean, we had another document that talked about, well, it's a little bit dangerous. And this is like the most dangerous that I've seen them characterize Baghdad and Iraq as so far.
Okay, one more, and I think this will be a good one to leave off with.
Okay.
Do you want to help select signals intelligence for the president? From the Chief of Cryptologic Services Group at the CIA. Are you interested in being on the front line for selecting SIGINT to brief the president, his cabinet, and intelligence community officials? If so, then do two things. First, check the field vacancy announcements on Monday to learn about current job openings at the CIA. Okay, so hang on a second. So this is one of the things that we reported on right from the outset and that we've seen throughout, and that is that CIA and NSA have a revolving door. And staff go backwards and forwards between those two agencies, which is totally the opposite of what we hear colloquially on social media, where they say, oh, the CIA, you know, Snowden did the leaks because the CIA has it in for the NSA and they want to destroy the NSA's reputation and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, we still see that no matter how many times we've addressed it on this stream or in articles. Yeah.
Of course, because it's the number one disinfo about Snowden. There's two. One, he's a Russian agent. Two, he's a CIA agent still. These are the two things. And they don't really care which you believe as long as you believe one of them.
Yeah.
But if you read and study these documents and understand how incredibly historic and important and textured they are, how much the depth of information, like it would be impossible to manufacture these documents. The volume of them and the how in-depth the information is, it would be totally impossible to manufacture. So we know the documents are legit. We know that the US government definitely does not want us knowing what's in these documents. So that kind of puts a big freaking hole in the whole idea of him being a CIA agent in the first place. But what really nails it is when you see that CIA is dependent on NSA operationally. CIA and NSA have a revolving door that their staff move back and forward between. And now we see CIA advertising job positions on the NSA employee portal.
Yeah, absolutely.
Why would NSA allow CIA to advertise positions on their portal unless it was beneficial to NSA?
Exactly.
The NSA and the CIA are the left arm and the right arm. One collects information, the other acts on it.
Absolutely.
So it makes no sense whatsoever. None that Snowden would be a CIA agent.
Yeah.
Or somehow still working for NSA. None. Definitely. And then you start coupling that with little tidbits like the fact that they downed a presidential jet trying to capture Snowden. You know, all this heightened rhetoric about Russia, all of it's all interlinked. They are pissed at Russia because Russia harbors Snowden. That's the truth.
One reason for sure. Very, very, very important.
They have other reasons too, but that was definitely a big one.
Definitely. And I think that, we've been beating that drum. I think we should keep beating it. And I think we should include documents like this in future reporting about this batch, because I think that's an especially good one for that point.
So we knew that CIA gives awards to NSA members. We knew that CIA, and when I say we knew, I mean we knew from previous episodes and we knew they give out awards. We knew that NSA staff go to meetings at the CIA and where the director of the CIA is present and briefing them and talking to them. We know that there's this revolving door where they move back and forward, and we know that they're operationally dependent on each other. And now we know that CIA even advertises jobs on the NSA portal.
Exactly. That should absolutely blow apart that whole Snowden CIA agent revenge narrative.
Completely.
Sure.
Okay. Working as NSA's representative in the DCI Operations Centre where the CSG is located is definitely interesting. Just 2 weeks ago, I briefed the newly appointed DCI on how the intelligence community's critic program works, following some excellent critic reporting. During that exchange of information, Mr. Goss asked me, does the president have this information? After assuring him that the president was informed, I thought to myself, wow, this is definitely work supporting the very top of the government.
Wow.
A big responsibility here in the CSG is to support the presidential briefers. So again, the CIA DCI is briefing, Director of Central Intelligence is briefing the president. And NSA is supplying the information to the CIA to brief the president.
Absolutely.
We select the SIGINT each day that meets their reporting thresholds for briefing their principals. We have an intimate, constructive relationship. NSA has an intimate, constructive relationship.
That's a perfect sentence to use in an article. It really is.
An intimate, constructive relationship with the briefers of the President of the United States from the CIA. And they make us proud each day by telling us that SIGINT is often the best intelligence that is shown to the President at home or on the road, as well as to the Secretary of Defense, State, the National Security Advisor, and other cabinet level officials. We also brief senior DCI officials to include the ADCI for Collection, Assistant/Director of Central Intelligence, the National Intelligence Council Chairman, and officials from CIA's Office of Collection Strategies and Analysis. CIA also has some very interesting people that come through the Operations Centre. So they walk each other's halls.
That is absolutely totally indicative of everything we said before.
In just the last month, baseball star Cal Ripken Jr. and movie celebrity Robert De Niro were both here at our desk, receiving an unclassified view of how the DCI directs intelligence community. What the hell have they got a baseball
Why do they have
fucking movie star doing in there?
Yeah. What is Hollywood doing in the NSA office being briefed, even on
It would be that
unclassified?
Robert De Niro is like has some movie role and needs to get a realistic picture. But why they have a baseball star there, God knows. At the end of the day, however, the real benefit to being part of the CSG CIA is knowing that you're on the intel front line, and that's incredibly rewarding.
Yeah, I feel like that Hollywood bit and the baseball guy, I think that's just like kind of that internal advertising yet again, where they're like, oh, you get to hang out with Hollywood people if you work for us, you know, that type of vibe.
It reminds me of the interview I did with John Kiriakou. And he talked about Bob Woodward. He said, John Kiriakou said he was sitting at his desk in the CIA, and walking past his open door was Bob Woodward, the famous biographer of multiple US presidents, who was also the Washington Post reporter whose source was Deep Throat in the 70s. So he said that Bob Woodward went walking past the door with no minder, no nothing. And John Kiriakou said to his secretary, isn't that Bob Woodward? And she said, oh, yes, we got a memo that said he's to be allowed to walk around and, you know, study things. Did you not see this episode with John Kiriakou?
No, I don't think I did. No, I remember your interview with him. I just didn't pick up on that, on how crazy that is.
Yeah, and he was, Bob Woodward had clearance to just walk around unattended, just seeing what the CIA was up to.
Nuts. That's absolutely amazing. Crazy.
Okay, guys, we're going to wrap it up very shortly. Do you guys have any questions for us or anything that you want to talk about really quickly? I'm pretty much dying to get a drink.
Yeah, I bet. And I'm just going to say once again that if you can get our Patreon link to work and if you feel like donating, please do. We would really love it and appreciate it. But if not, that's totally fine. And we love you all for joining us in any case. It's really, really massively valued and appreciated.
Cockatoo says they actually acknowledge that bomb scenes on CNN are sanitized for public consumption.
Wow.
Jenny Lynn, Snowden's app Haven is a spy app, but it's a spy app for us.
Okay.
So what it does is give the public access to the same type of functionality that the intelligence agencies. Oh, sorry, I'm just seeing the OcuWorld says Snowden worked for DIA, yet there is a glaring lack of released info from there. There is DIA references scattered throughout these documents. OcuWorld. So there have been multiple DIA references. But just back to Haven quickly. Jenny, what kind of nefarious potential does it have? Because anybody who wants to spy on someone else right now can easily hack their phone and make their phone do the same. Like hacking team software. Okay. This is a topic I know a lot about.
You're good.
Hacking Team, which was the Italian hackers, which law enforcement agencies all over the world are customers of. In the emails, in the Hacking Team releases in WikiLeaks, there is what can only be described as like mercenaries, like ex-military guys. There was one in New Zealand specifically that I'm thinking of, who just paid the money and purchased Hacking Team, was able to have a server and could hack anybody's mobile phone that they wanted, could use it to take photos, could use it for anything. If you have money, you can target whoever you like. There is a company called SSI Pacific in Wellington in New Zealand, which says outright that it's a commercial company. You pay it money and it will hack people and target them for you.
Yeah.
So there's nothing that Haven does that a bad person couldn't get some other way. They can hire private investigators, they can hire these shady, dodgy mercenary security companies. They can purchase software and do it yourself. So Haven, I don't see Haven as giving the bad guys anything that they don't already have. But what it does do is it gives people who wouldn't do any of those things or have access to any of those things, it gives them the same functionality. It's like leveling the playing field. So for me, right, Jenny Lynn, I agree with you that it could be used for those things, but there's 100,000 other ways that someone who wants to could already do those things. So here's where it makes a difference, okay? It makes a difference to someone like me when I was being targeted in New Zealand. I had absolutely no capacity whatsoever. I knew my home was being broken into. If you've seen my documentary, you know, because they would deliberately do things inside my home so I would know that they'd been there. It would give me a way to prove what was happening to me. Because even when they broke in, if they went and disabled the phone, I would have photos of them disabling the phone.
Yeah.
Like they can disable my security camera if I put a security camera at the front door. They can disable my alarm if I disable my alarm at the front door. But Haven, they would actually have to physically disable the phone, by which time I would already have photos and or videos and or audio files of the fact that they were inside my house doing it.
Yeah.
It gives targets the same power as those targeting them, at least at that physical level, in a physical environment.
Like a huge new tool that even though there are going to be some ultimate, you know, the same type of issues that you have already from other types of technology, it's a huge bonus, as you're saying, for activists and other people that may be targeted.
So where I can see, what one potential use that I could see is that it is essentially a counterintelligence application. It's created a mobile app for counterintelligence, which means that spies will probably use it.
Yeah.
Spies will be able to install Haven and leave a phone in their hotel room or their whatever. And maybe they won't need a whole support team watching their place or whatever. Who knows? It may well save spy agencies and investigative agents, private investigators, all these types of security companies. It might save them money and resources. But it is the first serious threat to their ability to target lay people and get away with it. Because their number one obsession is deniability. They need to be able to deny that they were ever in your house. Like the things they would do inside my house were like the most petty little things that I would never, like I knew they'd been there, but I could never prove it. Like I talk in my documentary about like they'd bring a newspaper in that I hadn't purchased and they'd leave it open on the coffee table so that I would walk in and I would know. But I can't go to a police station and be like, someone left a newspaper on my coffee table. I want you to investigate that.
Yeah.
So
that's the quickest way to get you labeled as some.
Exactly. But absolutely. If I had my phone sending me photos of someone entering my house and putting a newspaper on my coffee table, all of a sudden that's a way more, to be able to go to the police and say, look, this is what happened, this is what was done to me. That's a freaking game changer. Also, to then be able to collect that evidence for a court of law, to be able to supply a lawyer with that type of thing. Not going to a lawyer like I had to in New Zealand and saying, A, B, C, D, E, F, G has happened to me, but being able to say, here's a memory stick and here's all the, dates, timestamps, everything automatically recorded. The amount of work it would save a target, and oh my God, and the peace of mind. I mean, one of the other horrible things I didn't talk about in my documentary, but they used to do is one of my children had an outside door to their bedroom, and I would come home from an action, from a protest, and that door would be wide open.
Wow.
Unlocked and open. And once again, I can't go to the police and say, I definitely didn't leave that door open. I definitely locked it. I couldn't do that. So this is the type of thing that it could prevent them doing. It could make a serious, meaningful difference in the lives of activists. And I didn't mean to get on here and give...
No, you're fine. I mean, I think at the very, very least, it's something that's going to help the sanity and the validation of a lot of people, at the very bottom level of what it can do and will do for people. So that's amazing.
Really. Exactly. And I just think it's pretty obvious that the spies have access to similar technology already. The spies have it's an uneven playing field right now. They've got the resources, they've got the laws, they've got the money, they've got the teams of people, and the targets have fucking nothing. The targets are under massive pressure, and horrible things are being done to them, and they're having to deal with trying to explain to people what's happening to them at the same time as their social groups are being poisoned and turned against them. I mean, deliberately, they will literally go to your kids' schools, go to your neighbors, go do everything they can to stop anyone believing you, to discredit you by any means. Haven is a game changer. And if anything, I don't think that factor has been pushed enough. I don't think people are yet getting what the potential of that app is.
Well, that's why these types of discussions are important.
I actually didn't have security cameras, Jenny Lynn. The first thing is that they leave you with no money. They do absolutely everything they can to cut off all financial resources to you. So when you're in a situation like I was, where you're a solo mum with 2 kids, they were destroying my home around me, literally smashing external water pipes, smashing my roof over and over again, doing everything to cost me money. So that I was just constantly having to pay to try to fix what the damage they were doing, which they'd then just come and do the damage again. And they prevent you, they go after your income, they go after your assets, they go after absolutely everything. So, and at the same time, I was trying to juggle still covering actions, supporting I had people on my media team who were targeted even worse than me, who actually were hospitalized, who actually had really serious things happening to them. So I was trying to support the people around me and deal with my domestic situation and still go and cover events and do my journalism. So I had no capacity. I couldn't even begin, and I didn't have the knowledge, the experience, or the resources to be able to somehow fortify my home. So I did really basic things like putting floodlights in, and I did what I could when I could, but I couldn't. I mean, they had GPS trackers on my car. You name it, they were doing it. So I did the best I could under the circumstances, but I was just basically surrounded by hostile forces on all sides. It was totally an atrocious situation, Laura. It was really, really atrocious. I've said before, and it's true, there were weeks in 2014 where I did not think I honest to God, did not believe I would see the week out. I did not expect, my life became, it was really day by day. At the point at which, they're tampering with my vehicle, the car fire, them trying to drive me off a cliff, I couldn't even see into the next week or into the next month. I couldn't see a future. A future was like a luxury that was not afforded to me.
That is so horrific.
Yeah. And I'm just one of many people. Many people. And so it's all well and good when we're sitting here and we're talking about Iraq and insurgents and IEDs and stuff like that. But also understand that this happens in the West. This happens to civilians. This happens to people who could never make an IED in their life, even if they wanted to. And they pick on us. They pick on us because we're easy targets. And they're pretty sadistic, these people. So,
and the word target means that as well as the other uses for it. So that's definitely massively important.
The world is a battlefield, George W. Bush said. Any country that you are in, we are coming for you. And he meant it, and we didn't take him seriously enough.
Yeah.
But all this stuff that we're looking at now in these 2004 documents, eventually it really did spread to every country on earth. All that counter-terrorism funding, all the special laws that they passed everywhere were all for this. So someone said oh, thank you for your courage, blah, 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 on one of my Steam It posts. And it's your story is such a great story. And I said to them, it's a really nice to be able to actually sit here and tell it, because I never thought, I had no guarantee, less than no guarantee. It was a very high likelihood that I would never get the chance. Never get the chance. So, but here I am. And now I'm getting my revenge in my own tiny little way, just by educating people and showing them this is what's going on. We need to be aware of it.
Definitely.
Might have paid a high price, but I'm grateful. I would never know Elizabeth. Like, imagine all the things that would never have happened, you know?
Yeah, I would be very sad if I didn't get to know you, but I'm not happy that happened to you either. So we just have to deal with it as it is, I guess. But
I think everything has a purpose.
Yeah.
I do believe everything has a purpose and a reason. So we've done our rant for today. Is there anything you guys want to ask us? We're actually going to finish up now. So any questions, spit them out. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much for everyone who's come before and everyone who's here.
Absolutely.
Yet again, we have a bunch of regulars and we have a bunch of new faces as well. It's super, super cool.
So impressive to see you all here again and to see so many new people as well. Extremely humbling. Oki World said, "Is your tea?"
My tea is empty. And I feel a bit silly actually, because I should be drinking out of one of my Courage Foundation cups.
Yeah. True.
Hi Jay, welcome. Welcome to our little family of crowdsourced analysts.
Yes.
Okay, guys. Oh, and Alberto's back too. Hey. Okay, guys, we will catch up later.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all. Send me a tweet if there's anything.
We will be here again on Friday around 7.
Oh, Rise, thank you so much. Thank you for being here. It means a lot to me to have you old school Occupy people here. It's really cool because you're all around way at the beginning of this. So thank you so much. If there's anything I can do, anything you want me to amplify, send it to me. Use the hashtag, and I think Fly will hook you up with a Patreon link if you want to sign up to $1 a month or something for us. That would be freaking cool.
Yeah, that would be amazing.
Because it goes without saying, there is no corporate backing to this program.
Yeah, I mean, you were just talking
for that matter.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. See you Friday. See you in a couple of days. Good night. Thank you all.
Good night, guys.